am going to be doing brownies 3 different ways, and it's going to be kind of catered to different seasons. So part of my motivation with this is I like to know what to bring to different events and activities, and it's just really nice to have a bunch of different recipes under your belt, and then you just know what to pull out at the right time every year. At the same time, when those times roll around, it tends to be really busy, and I don't have time to recipe test, or I don't have a margin for error. I can't try a new recipe and have it flop right before going to a potluck or something like that. So I'm gonna test 3 different recipes today, and one of them I think is perfect for summertime. One of them I think is more wintry, and then the other one can kind of be wherever you want it. I think it would be a nice spring or fall if you didn't want to bring your special summer or winter brownie. But anyway, I'm gonna cook 3 different ones. Tonight I'm gonna do Rocky Road brownies, and this one I think is perfect for the winter. It seems really decadent and just warm and filling, and we really want a dessert tonight. So I'm gonna make that one tonight, and then tomorrow I'm going to make the other 2 because it's starting to get kind of late, and you know how brownies are, they take forever in the oven. So just one tonight and then 2 more tomorrow. So the Rocky Road brownies are out of this cookbook. And basically what makes them Rocky Road is that we're adding walnuts or pecans, you can pick, but I have walnuts, and marshmallow cream. I picked this up from Azure, and it's just organic marshmallow cream. Now, it's definitely still not a health food. It has organic tapioca syrup, organic sugar, water, dried egg whites, and vanilla. So, I mean, it's not like it's healthy, but it's definitely not as toxic as, you know, some of the stuff in the grocery store. So that's what we're gonna use tonight. I've already got my pan ready here. The first thing it wants us to do is microwave our chocolate and our butter. Now, my butter was frozen, and so I gave it a little bit of a head start, just so it wouldn't burn, the chocolate wouldn't burn while this frozen butter was trying to catch up. Now, it only calls for 3 ounces of chocolate, which does not seem like enough to me, but we're just gonna go with it and see what happens. While that is in the microwave, I am going to start getting my dry ingredients mixed up. I'm really used to adding cocoa powder at this step, so I think that's what's throwing me off the most. Just does not seem like enough chocolate, but we will see. Next, I need baking powder. And I need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Here's my chocolate mixture. It is already pretty soft. We're gonna see if we can help this butter along a little bit more. I don't want my chocolate to seize up if I put it in the microwave for too much longer. All right, I'm gonna give it maybe 20 more seconds. All right. There's just a tiny clump of butter left in there, and I'm just gonna let that hang out for a moment while I prep the sugar mixture. Here I'm gonna do our sugar. And then I'm gonna add the eggs, and I'm gonna grab the vanilla. If this turns out, it really seems like a very easy recipe, so we will see. The next thing we would need to do is mix this butter and chocolate in, and it is perfect now. There are no clumps. side. And then I am going to tweak the rules just a little bit. You're supposed to add the flour into the wet, but I am gonna do it the other way around. This bowl has way better lighting for you all to see. And then it just goes in the pan, and the walnuts and marshmallow cream go on the top. So let's see how this comes together here. It says to only do small dollops of the marshmallow cream, but the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of marshmallow cream. So it seems like that would pretty well cover the top. Here are my walnuts. I toasted these for just a little bit. They are gonna go right on top. Honestly, this would probably be better with pecans. They are definitely the better dessert nut in my opinion, but we don't have pecans, so this will do. All right, let's take a look at this marshmallow cream. So there's really not that much in here. There was a big air pocket off to the side. So I've scooped out 1/2 cup just to see how much that is. And you can see there's really not even that much left in the container. So I'm just gonna start, I wonder if there's an easier way to do this. I thought about using a cookie scoop, but I think it's too sticky even for that. Oh, look at that, y'all. Right there on the bottom, it's a bunch of like sweetener or syrup or something that I probably should have had stirred up in here. Okay, now I know. This is my first time using this product. Let's see. Oh, and it drizzles now. Maybe I can just over the top, yeah? Yeah, I don't know about small dots. That seems to make the recipe very difficult. I think dumping it on and just spreading what you can might be the better. Okay, now that you've watched me make a mess of myself, let me go clean up and then we'll finish this. The last step is it wants you to swirl this, and it says to use a butter knife, but I'm gonna use a chopstick. I don't want to dig all the way to the bottom because I don't want that marshmallow cream down there, but you do have to dig pretty far to get any up. Any brownie, that is. This reminds me of when I used to make soap. I would do pretty designs on the top like this. Okay, let's see how it bakes up. All right, it is time to pull these out. They actually only go in for about 25 minutes, which is way less than any brownie recipe I've ever made. They look gorgeous. I'm very excited to cut into these, but I'm gonna let them hang out here for a while. Hey y'all, it is the next day. Today we're gonna do a raspberry cheesecake brownie. I think this would be fantastic for summertime when you have fresh raspberries coming in the kitchen, although I'm gonna be using frozen raspberries today. And the other thing I'm gonna do is a blondie, but it's a variation. You add coconut and nuts basically, and you turn it into something called a Congo bar. And I think that would be a great versatile one for sometime when you want something that's a little bit lighter, but still flavorful. Another thing I wanna mention is those brownies that I pulled out last night. I don't know if it's because my marshmallow cream was different than a typical, like, you know, it's not like Jiffy marshmallow or whatever. But my brownies actually had a really hard time cooking through. I thought they were done. We cooled them down and we cut into them and we were like, these are nowhere close. And I cooked them for longer than the recipe called for. So we popped them back in for as long as we could until basically the marshmallow cream seemed like it started to burn. So my recommendation to you is if you want to try something like that, I would definitely not try it with the super organic marshmallow cream. I would maybe go buy the cheap stuff, especially if you're in a pinch and you need your recipe to work. Okay, all that being said, let's try these Congo bars and then the raspberry cheesecake. I'm gonna prepare them both and hopefully bake them together because they go in at the same temperature. Here in this pan, I have walnuts and shredded coconut, and I'm gonna pop these in the oven and just toast them up a little bit. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of coconut, but my coconut is really, really fine. And I think it's probably densely packed compared to, you know, like a looser shredded coconut. So I just used 1 cup, and I think it'll be fine, especially since we're just adding these in as a variation. I have 2 bowls here. I'm gonna try to use the same flour bowl for both recipes. And I'm gonna mix up the flour, baking powder, and table salt. Next, I'm gonna get some butter going in the microwave. We need to melt it down. Let's see, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a wonky 8. And then I need 4 more tablespoons from this stick here. That should do it. My coconut toasted up quick, so I pulled that out and we're gonna set this off to the side for when we need it. This recipe calls for brown sugar, and this is the sugar that we make at home. Well, we buy the regular sugar and then we just add molasses to it, and that way we can have a high quality brown sugar. We used to buy brown sugar already made and it was just really expensive, so this saves us some money. Now we just need our butter. Here's our butter going in. Just a little clump there. To this, we're gonna add our vanilla. And 2 eggs. This egg has been hanging out in this bowl because I dropped it on the counter when I got my eggs out. So there's that one. Here's number 2. And then all we need to do is fold in this flour and then our chocolate chips and add-ins. It's a pretty easy recipe. If you needed to make something and you just had a couple hours, this would probably come together really quickly and then it could just sit in the oven while you did other stuff. All right, I don't want to mix it too much more. There's just a little bit of flour, but I'm going to mix it more when I add these chocolate chips. Sorry, these are not chocolate. These are white chocolate chips. Half a cup of those. A half cup of semi-sweet. Then of course we have our tray of coconut and walnut. Wow, this really looks like a dough that you want to eat before you've even baked it. Here I've got a 9x13 all ready to go. Just gonna pour it on in. I am not a huge fan of blondies. I think because I don't like white chocolate chips, or rather I think they are less flavorful than chocolate chips. So maybe I will like this since it's Also got the coconut, and there's other flavors in here. Okay. Beautiful. I'm gonna set that off to the side and we'll prepare our other brownies. I've got my bowl cleaned here, and then in this bowl I have some bittersweet chocolate and some butter. It wanted me to do this on the stove, but I do this all the time in the microwave, so I'm not gonna get a pan out for this. Also, I will link this recipe below. This one is not out of a cookbook. This one is from the internet. In my bowl here, it wants the sugar, eggs, and vanilla mixed up together, so I'm gonna get that going while I wait for my chocolate to finish. There's our vanilla. Then I need 2 large eggs. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. There we go. No shells, all right. Just a good whisk. Make sure that vanilla gets stirred in. I popped our chocolate in for 30 seconds. And it has a good start, but it's not done. I'm gonna give it 20 more seconds and see what that does to it. This chocolate is nice and melted up now, so I am gonna pour it on in. Whoops. We're gonna whisk this up and then we add flour. Now it wants the flour sprinkled over the top, and that's pretty much it for the actual batter part of this recipe. And then we go on to make the cheesecake and raspberry components. Okay, so it calls for a 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of flour. I always wonder how bakers figure that out. And then we're gonna fold this in. Just about incorporated. Whoop. I just realized I forgot the 4th teaspoon of salt. So we're just gonna add that really quick. I don't wanna stir it too much, but gotta get it in there. And then it says to reserve a 1/3 cup of this batter. So I am gonna do that. I'm just gonna set it here on one of these reusable paper towels. And then here is the prepared pan, and it says to pour it on in. Now for this recipe, it did call for a 9x9, and the recipe says that you can use an 8x8. You just have to keep baking time in mind. I guess it might be a little gooier since it's less surface area, which makes total sense. For the cheesecake component, I am going to use the KitchenAid. So here I just have about a block of cream cheese. I weighed it out because we don't buy cream cheese by the block. And I'm just gonna beat this really quickly until it's starting to be smooth, and then I'll add some sugar and vanilla. Okay, we need a teaspoon of vanilla, about, I was measured with the heart there. A 1/3 cup of sugar. My 1/3 cup is occupied right here with the brownie batter, so we're just gonna do a heaping 1/4. And then it wants 1 egg. Let me see if I can set this little guy down for a moment. I know, we have to crack an egg. In it goes. All right, let's mix it up. I'm gonna scrape this down real quick because a lot of that cream cheese is just stuck in the bottom. Next, this just gets poured over the top, which is really easy. I really appreciate that you can put these components in as you get them. You don't have to have all these laying around, so you can reclaim all your bowls. What do you think? Does that look yummy? Say yum. And then for this reserved brownie batter, it says to just put dollops around. Oh, this is much easier than that marshmallow fluff last night. The last step is we have to make the raspberry mixture, and to my pleasant surprise, you don't actually have to cook this. I thought surely this would go on the stove and cook down into some sort of syrup, but nope, you can just put it all right in here. We need a cup of raspberries, and we buy the raspberry pieces in bulk from Azure, so that is what I have today, which might actually make this easier because I don't have to mash as much. They're pretty much already broken down. And then it wants a teaspoon of cornstarch and a tablespoon of sugar. All my teaspoons have vanilla in them, so we're gonna do this a few times. A tablespoon of sugar. So basically this all gets stirred together, and then you do teaspoons of this mixture, which is apparently supposed to be a little mushier. I might have to wait for this to just thaw for a moment. And then you take a skewer or chopstick or something and you swirl it all over the top. Here are all the raspberries put in here, and I am just gonna swirl this. It's a little bit hard to swirl because the brownie is pretty stiff. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to move those around very much. Maybe it would be a good idea to prepare the raspberries way ahead of time. And that way when you're done with your brownies and they're slightly warm, the brownie batter is slightly warm from the butter, you can just put them both in here quickly. Because I don't see any reason why you couldn't prepare this raspberry filling towards the beginning. All right, they're both ready to go. So these Congo bars only bake for 22 to 25 minutes. And the raspberry bars, or the raspberry brownies, take closer to 30 minutes. So we're gonna see what happens. Here are the Congo bars. I pulled these out just a little while ago. And now I'm going to pull out the cheesecake bars. These look so good. I'm so excited to cut into these. All right, friends, those are the 3 recipes that I think I'm going to be keeping around. So I have linked the raspberry one below, but the other 2 are, of course, from that cookbook, which I will also put below. But if you don't feel like buying that cookbook, just take any Blondie bar recipe that you like and put coconut and extra nuts in there, and you will have a Congo bar. Same for the Rocky Road brownies. If you have a recipe that you love, I bet you could just add that marshmallow cream on top, just like we did, add some nuts on top, and it would be the same thing. I'm not sure if marshmallow cream would burn, so if your brownies bake for a really long time, I would maybe start your brownies and then halfway through add that. You might have to play with it, but yeah. So if that book is not something that you want right now, I'm sure there are ways that you can make these very same things in your kitchen. So thank you all so much for joining, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.